Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Tadashi Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Tadashi Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So I have text 3. Is that correct? I'm asking which one we're on. I'm pretty sure we didn't read text 3, and I'm pretty sure we did read text 2. We must have read text 2. Three, right? Yes. Okay. Okay.
Which chapter?
Chapter 10, text 3.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to get to that. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 28th day of December 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 10 entitled The Opulence of the Absolute. Text number 3 on page 421. Yo mam ajam anading cha veti loka maheshwaram asamudha samartyeshu sarvapapai pamuchyate yo mam ajamanading cha veti loka maheshwaram asamudha samartyeshu sarvapapai pramuchyate yo mam ajamanading cha veti loka maheshwaram asamudha samartyeshu sarvapapai pramuchyate yo mam ajamanading cha veti loka maheshwaram asamudha samartyeshu sarvapapai pramuchyate. Go ahead, Vaishnav. Yo mam ajamanading cha veti loka maheshwaram asamudha samartyeshu sarvapapai pramuchyate.
Yo mam ajam anadim cha
Yo mam ajamanading cha
veti loka maheshwaram
veti loka maheshwaram
asamudha samartyeshu
asamudha samartyeshu
sarvapapai pramuchyate.
sarvapapai pramuchyate. Vajamano. Yo mam ajamanading cha veti loka maheshwaram asamudha samartyeshu sarvapapai pramuchyate. And another. Yo mam ajamanading cha veti loka maheshwaram asamudha samartyeshu sarvapapai pramuchyate. Okay, now we
Yo
go.
mama jamanadim cha
Yo mama jamanading cha
veti loka maheshwaram
veti loka maheshwaram
asamuda samartyeshu
asamudha samartyeshu
sarva papai pramuchyate.
sarvapapai pramuchyate. Yaha, anyone who, mam, me, ajam, unborn, anadim, without beginning, cha, also, veti, knows, loka, of the planets, maha ishwaram, the Supreme Master, asamudha, undiluted, saha, he, martyeshu, among those subject to death, sarvapapai, from all sinful reactions, pramuchyate, is delivered. Now before we continue, Vijay Krishna, please don't answer me, but listen, I know you can hear me. Don't answer me, because we're trying to not have any amplification in the temple, so that Vijay Prabhu, the international book minister who's distributing half the books in this temple, will stay here. If it's too noisy, he takes rest at 7:15. He's already trying to sleep. So you write me an email and I'll explain the whole thing to you. Dravida108 @gmail.com. Okay? Thanks. Synonyms. Yaha, anyone who, Mam, me, Ajam, unborn, Anadim, without beginning, Cha, also, Veti, knows, Loka, of the planets, Maha Ishwaram, the Supreme Master, Asammudaha, undiluted, Saha, he, Martyeshu, among those subject to death, Sarvapapai, from all sinful reactions, Pramuchate, is delivered. Okay. Translation. He who knows me, says Krishna, he who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the Supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. Purport. As stated in the 7th chapter, 7.3, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye. Those who are trying to elevate themselves to the platform of spiritual realization are not ordinary men. They are superior to millions and millions of ordinary men who have no knowledge of spiritual realization. But out of those actually trying to understand their spiritual situation, one who can come to the understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the proprietor of everything, the unborn, is the most successful spiritually realized person. And that stage only, when one has fully understood Krishna's supreme position, can one be free completely from all sinful reactions. Here the Lord is described by the word Aja, meaning unborn. But he is distinct from the living entities who are described in the 2nd chapter as Aja. The Lord is different from the living entities who are taking birth and dying due to material attachment. The conditioned souls are changing their bodies, but his body is not changeable. Even when he comes to this material world, he comes as the same unborn. Therefore, in the 4th chapter, it is said that the Lord, by his internal potency, is not under the inferior material energy, but is always in the superior energy. In this verse, the words Veti Loka Maheshwaram indicate that one should know that Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor of the planetary systems of this universe. He was existing before the creation, and he is different from his creation. All the demigods were created within this material world. But as far as Krishna is concerned, it is said that he is not created. Therefore, Krishna is different even from the great demigods like Brahmā and Śiva. And because he is the creator of Brahmā, Śiva, and all the other demigods, he is the supreme person of all planets. Sri Krishna is therefore different from everything that is created, and anyone who knows him as such immediately becomes liberated from all sinful reactions. One must be liberated from all sinful activities to be in the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Only by devotional service can he, Krishna, be known, and not by any other means, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. One should not try to understand Krishna as a human being. As stated previously, only a foolish person thinks him to be a human being. This is again expressed here in a different way. A man who is not foolish, who is intelligent enough to understand the constitutional position of the Godhead, is always free from all sinful reactions. If Krishna is known as the son of Devaki, then how can he be unborn? That is also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. When he appeared before Devaki and Vasudeva, he was not born as an ordinary child. He appeared in his original form, and then he transformed himself into an ordinary child. Anything done under the direction of Krishna is transcendental. It cannot be contaminated by material reactions, which may be auspicious or inauspicious. The conception that there are things auspicious and inauspicious in the material world is more or less a mental concoction, because there's nothing auspicious in the material world. Everything is inauspicious because the very material nature is inauspicious. We simply imagine it to be auspicious. Real auspiciousness depends on activities in Krishna consciousness in full devotion and service. Therefore, if we at all want our activities to be auspicious, then we should work under the directions of the Supreme Lord. Such directions are given in authoritative scriptures such as Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, or from a bona fide spiritual master. Because the spiritual master is the representative of the Supreme Lord, his direction is directly the direction of the Supreme Lord. The spiritual master, saintly persons, and scriptures direct in the same way. There is no contradiction in these three sources. All actions done under such direction are free from the reactions of pious or impious activities of this material world. The transcendental attitude of the devotee in the performance of activities is actually that of renunciation, and this is called sannyas. As stated in the first verse of the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, one who acts as a matter of duty because he has been ordered to do so by the Supreme Lord, and who does not seek shelter in the fruits of his activities, anashrita karma palam, is a true renouncer. Anyone acting under the direction of the Supreme Lord is actually a sannyasi and a yogi, and not the man who has simply taken the dress of a sannyasi or a pseudo-yogi. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, Krishna is describing himself as only he can, and he's also describing those who are fortunate enough to know him as he is. So much of the Bhagavad Gita is trying to convince us that we're spirit souls, and that there is a God, a supreme spirit soul, and his name is Krishna, and he has his own abode, and that he is the owner and controller and the knower of everything in the material universe. Until we come to that point of understanding ourselves as spirit and understanding that there is a supreme spirit and we have forgotten that relationship, then we can't really practice devotional service in the proper mood, because there's a purpose to it. We have to have a mission. And that mission is to become more and more aware of Krishna and ourselves and the relationship between ourselves and Krishna and the relation between Krishna and this world. So that comes on the basis of faith. And that faith is being nourished in this chapter, and will culminate, as I pointed out several times already, in texts 8 through 11, which are often designated as the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, foundation. Just like the Srimad Bhagavatam has 4 essential verses, sometimes called the Chatur Shloki Bhagavatam, the Bhagavatam in 4 shlokas. And it's understood that this was originally spoken to Brahma by Krishna himself, and that Brahma then expanded it into the Bhagavatam that was then passed on to Narada, who then passed it on to Vyasa, who then passed it on to Shukadeva Goswami. So the essence of for each of the 4 shlokas is that Krishna is revealing himself as the supreme absolute truth. And he does so in the same way that the Vedanta Sutra defines the absolute truth. First, the source of everything. The famous first sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, which is a call to the conditioned souls. Now that you're human beings, he starts out the book with more or less the word therefore. Well, how do you start out a book with the word therefore? Therefore comes after an argument. Well, all of the other Vedas and all the other writings are the argument. And our experience in this material world is the argument. Now, having come to this human form of life and being intelligent, we should inquire into Brahman. Now, what is that Brahman? That's answered in the next verse. Janmadyasya yataha. And which happen to be the first syllables of the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's why the Bhagavatam, in some editions at the end of each chapter, says, thus ends this chapter of the Bhagavatam, which is a commentary on the Brahma Sutra. And Lord Chaitanya saw that Bhagavatam as the best commentary on the Brahma Sutra or Vedanta Sutra, given by the same author. That's an important point, is that Vyasadeva himself wrote the Vedanta Sutra, and then under the urging of Narada Muni, he meditated in trance, saw Krishna with Maya behind him, understood that it was that the living entities are bewildered by that Maya, and therefore they suffer all kinds of anarthas. But by the process of bhakti yoga, those anarthas can be cleansed away and one can be returned to his original pristine state. But people don't know that. Therefore, he compiled, or he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's all in the I think 7th chapter of the first canto. So anyway, there's this constant effort of Krishna to convince us in the Bhagavad Gita in various ways that he is indeed the Supreme Person. And he's kind of working up to it now. It'll culminate in those verses I mentioned, beginning in text 8, 4 verses. And what does he say there? Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam bhavartate. I am the source of everything. I am that Brahman that's mentioned in the Vedanta Sutra and defined as janmadyasya yataha. That's the 2nd sutra. Also the beginning of the Bhagavatam. Janmadyasya yaton vyada tadataschache. And it continues that, and it's all about Vishnu. It's all Vasudeva, who's in the first words of the Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, which we chant before every class. So Vasudeva is a person is known as Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. And what does it say in the Bhagavatam? Janmadyasya yaton. Everything has been generated by him. And then it goes on to explain that he knows everything and the enlightened Lord Brahma and many other aspects. And here in the Bhagavad Gita, we're getting he's like in this verse, I am unborn, without a beginning, and I am the Lord of all creation, Maheshwaram, Loka Maheshwaram. Those who are the martyrs, who are the mortals, the people in living entities in material bodies, who are not bewildered, they know this. Veti, they know this, and they become thus free of all sins. So the benefit of that pramuchate. And in the what happened? Okay.
Sorry to give you this now.
Oh. Yes, I plan to do that, Vijay Prabhu. I had planned to do that. Hopefully I'll get to them before they blow the conch. Yes, me too. Yesterday, Amoga, who has a super loud voice, doesn't even need a mic, and he blows the conch super loud, and he blew it. I got him from the last one, he didn't blow it, but he's not, I don't think he's on the altar today. Anyway, it's a work in progress. So, what does Krishna say in the Bhagavatam? Ahameva asameva agre narya yatsara satpadam pushtaraham mirechacha yobhishisheta sosmyaham. Before anything existed in the material world, I existed. And after everything is manifested, it is only I who exist because it's all my energy. And when everything is wound up, I will continue to exist. So anyone who can actually say that, and it's the truth, he's God. He's the Supreme Personality, the source of everything. If you think about it logically, only the actual creator, unborn creator, can say that. So Krishna says a similar thing in text 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam bhavartate. I am the source of everything, and then he says it the other way. Everything that you see is created by me. And you think, well, is this kind of redundant? Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam bhavartate. You know, he's doing it from his own point of view, and then he's doing it from our point of view. But it's important. Because first he declares it, but then he's saying it that we don't know that, but we do know that there's a creation. So now he says that creation that you know about, that's coming from me. From his point of view, he's saying, I'm creating everything. So it's kind of a definitive way of saying it. But then right away, because both of these four chatra shlokis, if you will, the one Bhagavatam and the Gita, they contain these three essential aspects of bhakti, and maybe we can discuss them because it's good to you can frame. I once saw a Bhagavad Gita list of verses that Prabhupada had designated either abhideya, sambandha, or prayojana. He was categorizing the whole thing, and these are very important to understand. It's not complicated. So the first of them is sambandha. Sambandha is when you say, okay, I'm not this body, I'm a spirit. You see. And I'm part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit. And this whole world is nothing but the energies of that Supreme Spirit. This is the beginning of Sambandha. Sambandha means relationships. to know the relationship. First of all, you have to know what exists, and then the relationship between them, or among them. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So that's the first step, and that's why we find the Bhagavad Gita begins with this lesson on the soul. Unless we understand with spirit, not matter, that we're not this body, we can't begin any kind of understanding of devotional service. You can't engage in it with any kind of faith. So it begins, aham savasya bhavavo. Everything you see, I'm the origin. So right away you have two things. You have Krishna, is categorically different from this creation that we live in, you see. But it doesn't say much about us. And then that's the third line, where he starts speaking about Abhideya. Page 420. You got it. Abhideya means the practice. All of this is very fascinating information, but that's called Gyan, but it can't become Vigyan, realized knowledge, until we actually practice the process. Because Krishna is ultimately revealing it all to us from our heart. Oh, they're practicing devotional service, they're actually chanting, they're worshipping me, and you get more enlightenment from that. Otherwise it remains all in the mind, and you can easily reject it. So then comes Abhideya. Those who understand this about me, that I am the source of everything emanates from me, they worship me with all their hearts. They're intelligent. Aham savasya bhavavo mattak sarvam bhava iti matva bhajante imam buddha bhava samandvata. Buddha means the intelligent. The intelligent, they accept this truth about me, and they worship me with all their hearts. Then the question is, well, how? That's the second verse. Matchita madgata prana bodhiyantak parasparam katayantaschamam nityam tushyanti chadamanti cha. Now this last line is very encouraging, because it says they thus become very satisfied and they enjoy happiness. So this is the pleasure potency of Krishna consciousness right in the second verse here. So this is Abhideya, the practice. So first they put their mind on me. What's the best way? Chanting Hare Krishna. In this age it's very easy. So that's the primary way, not the sole way, but to expand, the deities and so many things. What we're doing now, reading the Shastra, hearing it, discussing. So, but their minds are on me. And as they get faith, they dedicate their lives to me. Matchita gata prana. Prana means life energy. Their life energy is directed more and more to my service. And how do they spend their time? Going to Bhagavad Gita class. Bodhiyantak parasparam. They discuss me among themselves. This is there in the famous verse from Kapila Dev, Satam prasangan mama virya samvida. The easiest process of yoga. It's getting together and hearing and chanting. That's the essence of hearing and chanting is Sankirtan. I chant, you hear, you chant, I hear. We both absorb in the holy name. So, bodhiyantak parasparam means mutually. Katayantas, speaking about me. Nityam, always glorifying, Katyantasmam Nityam, and Tushyanti Chadamanti cha. They thus experience great satisfaction, spiritual satisfaction, and spiritual pleasure, Ramanti. And that can be extended to the highest levels of intensity and depth. We see with the Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya's devotees, and we have abundant material, authorized subject matter to discuss and to explore Bhagavatam and the writings that follow the Bhagavatam of the Goswamis and so forth. So that's there. So then what's the result of that? This is all Abhideya. Now Krishna is now responding, so we're getting closer to the prayojana. Prayojana is pure love for Krishna, which takes us back to the spiritual world, going back home, back to Godhead. So then Krishna responds. He's there in the heart. He's understanding, they're glorifying me. So now he says, Tesham, to them, Tesham satata yuktanam, who are always linked to me in yoga by glorifying me, etc. Bhajatam priti purvakam, worshipping me with love and affection. Tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamapi antite. I give them the intelligence, buddhi yoga, the intelligence to use in linking to me, by which they can come back to me. Buddhi yogam tam yena mamapi antite. The word yena means by which. Mam upi antite, they can come to me, they can come back to me. So Krishna is responding. He's not just that stone watching. He's, as they surrender to me, I respond. I reciprocate, reward them. And finally, Tesham evam akampartam, this is the fourth verse, ahama jnanajam tamaham nashayam yatma bhavasto jnana dipena basata. This word anukampa is a very wonderful word. Kampa is one of the ecstatic symptoms. It's trembling, it's shivering in ecstasy. And anukampa means, can mean, trembling, feeling high emotion in sympathy with others. Anu means to follow. So Krishna, he's very attuned to how we feel, what we need in our spiritual life. And what we need is enlightenment. So within our heart, he shines the shining lamp of knowledge and illuminates us. So he wants to enlighten us. He wants us to come back, and he sees us sincerely doing it. So you start with Krishna's declaration, I am God, I'm the source of everything. Those who know that, they worship him with all their hearts. How do they do that? In concert with each other, glorifying him in so many different ways. And he responds by making them more and more enlightened and finally taking them back to Godhead. And then the next verses are Arjuna responding, representing us. Oh yes, I believe. Padam Brahma, Padam Dhamma, Pavitram, Padamam Bhavan. You are the supreme Brahman. You are the supreme purifier. He glorifies him in all this. It's not just me saying it. He says, he quotes Vyasadeva and Narada and Asitila and Devala, and there's so many other authorities. And then he has this immortal phrase, Sarvametam Hritam Manye. I accept as truth everything you're saying, Krishna. And Prabhupada makes the point, if we accept Bhagavad Gita as Arjuna has accepted, then we can also benefit in the same way. We can become completely purified. Would you like to stay? Yes. Be in the class? Okay, have a seat. You can move that mic. Okay. And we'll supply you with a book. Yeah, you got it. You got a book right there. Hare Krishna. Welcome. Okay, so back to our present verse. So Krishna is working up to that, and he's describing himself Ajam, unborn, without beginning, the Lord of all worlds. Those who know this, they're free from sinful reactions. And Prabhupada makes the point in this purport that when, as it's made at the end of chapter 7, that if you're free from sinful reactions and sinful activities, then you can really practice Krishna consciousness with full energy and faith. Okay, any questions? This is a rich purport. I didn't cover too many points. Yes?
Sorry, my ignorance is a little confused. First you say Krishna is a person.
Uh-huh.
Then you said, no, whoever says he's a human being is foolish. So I guess person and human being are not the same thing.
No. We have our personhood completely outside of being a human being. It's like an organism, Okay. So the interesting thing is, because people feel that there's this anthropomorphism idea, that we needed somebody to worship, and so we created a god in our own image, a human god. But either there's no one out there, or if there is, it's just a big energy. Why a human being? So really, we are made in God's image. The reason why we have two hands and so forth is because that's the original form. Why is that the original form? Because in that form, he can experience all the different rasas and relationships that we know in our little way. You know what I mean? That we're trying to imitate. We have love, and we have appreciation, and we can play with our friends and all the things. But why? How can we do that? With our eyes, with our ears, with our legs, and with our human organs. So, but these we're a poor imitation, because we get old, and our senses they're already weak, they become even weaker, and the things that we would want to do as spirits, we can't do in the body anymore. So we're very frustrated. So, but Krishna, his body, although looking like a human being, he's really not human, and he proves that constantly. In Vrindavan Leela, when you read Krishna book, he's acting like a little human child. Why? Why does he cover his divinity? To evoke these intimate emotions from his mother. There's a pastime where his mother has heard that he ate earth. I'm sure a lot of mothers hear that their child ate earth, or they witness it, right? So this is a serious thing. You can, the child become sick or whatever, So she accused him. You ate earth. Balaram said so. And he denied it. He said, "No, we're having a quarrel. He's lying." So she says, "Well, then open your mouth. I want to see if there's any." So he opens his mouth, and instead of seeing earth, like soil, she sees the whole universe in his mouth. And suddenly, her maternal mood is affected. If you read it, it says, "Oh, and I thought he was my son, and now I'm seeing the entire universe is the son." So she was losing that maternal aspect, which is what Krishna really likes. So then he covers over with Yogamaya. What's the difference? Yogamaya, Mahamaya makes us forget Krishna. Yogamaya helps us forget that Krishna is God, so that we can have a more intimate relationship with him. You see? So she was, for a moment there, she had lost her Yogamaya, and it was, Krishna was revealing his divinity even as a little baby, and so he then covered her over so that she, thought he was a little child and was chastising him, which he likes. So that's the idea, that his favorite thing to do, because if God is God, if someone is God, then he must have an arrangement for the highest enjoyment. But when you think about it, is it really enjoyment? If you can, lord it over everybody. I'm the master, you're all slaves. Where's the rasa? Are you going to really feel happy being feared by everybody? No. So Krishna, he wants to enjoy, and the way he enjoys is, he delegates the creation and the punishment of the demons normally. Sometimes when he comes, he does it himself. Which is very complicated and involving. The Garbhodaksha Vishnu, we have that painting in the corner of Mahavishnu, the different Purusha avatars. They're expansions of one of his expansions, Balaram, So what does that mean? It means that he can do what he wants to do, which is dance, with the gopis in Goloka Vrindavan. So that's in his most human-like form, aspect. But we shouldn't confuse it. He doesn't have a material body like this. It doesn't get old, doesn't get sick, So, but what's encouraging is that we also have a form like his in our original Swarup. It's called Swarup Siddhi, by which we're perfectly suited to engage in a certain service and relation with him in the spiritual world, and eternally. So that's how it works. Is that personhood does not mean that you necessarily have to have a human body. It can be a human form. That's why you say even the trees are persons. You can go to a tree in Vrindavan, say it's a mango tree, and but you're not in the mood for mangoes. You'd like to have a nice apple, So you ask the tree, "Can you please deliver to me a dozen apples? I'm going to offer this to Krishna and then take this." And they'll give you apples because that tree is fully conscious, but it's not human. There has to be trees in the spiritual world also. And so some living entities, okay, I'll take that role as long as I can be fully Krishna conscious and serve Krishna. So it's a different way of understanding, here everything is limited, by time. Every one of us is a day older than we were yesterday, and moving toward that inevitable disappearance. And so, but we try to forget that, and because we're in a mood of trying to enjoy this material world, but it's hopeless. This tragic thing that just happened. I mean, you're constantly reminded of it. All you have to do is just open your eyes. It's the holiday season, and people want to come together, enjoy the Christmas season. The relatives come, and then you have this craziness, this madness in Buffalo, a huge storm, snowstorm burying people who are on their way to their relatives, or they went shopping, never came back, and there they are hoping for happy holidays, and they're just freezing to death in their car. This is the material world. I was reading about tsunamis. You know what a tsunami is. So we're in like a tsunami-prone area. We know that there can be an earthquake, right? And if it's a little offshore, we could be like 100-foot wave come over here tomorrow. So life in the material world, as human beings or any kind of animal, any kind of organism, is very tenuous. And tragically, only in the human life, there's so many millions. They don't have a clue. They can't understand. If a dog or a cat or a parakeet comes in here, they can't appreciate Bhagavad Gita, But we can understand. This is the way out. This is the way out of this tragic prison house. That's what Durga means. You can't go, But we think, I have so much freedom. But it's an illusion of freedom. It's bound by time and the limitation of the body and the mind and everything, circumstances. So it requires a little openness, to kind of put it in abeyance, our preconceptions, what's going on, and then you can understand. All right, let's continue. 4, right? 4 to 5. Buddhi jnanam sammoha Chama satyam damas shamaha Sukham dhukam bhavo bhavo Bhayam cha bhayameva cha Ahimsa samata tushtis Tapodanam yasho yashaha Bhavanti bhava bhutanam Matta eva pratagvadaha. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, nonviolence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. Purport. The different qualities of living entities, be they good or bad, are all created by Krishna, and they are described here. Intelligence refers to the power to analyze things in their proper perspective, and knowledge refers to understanding what is spirit and what is matter. Ordinary knowledge obtained by a university education pertains only to matter, and it is not accepted here as knowledge. Knowledge means knowing the distinction between spirit and matter. In modern education, there is no knowledge about spirit. They are simply taking care of the material elements and bodily needs. Therefore, academic knowledge is not complete. I think in the 13th chapter, Prabhupada summarizes some very memorable phrases. Knowledge means knowledge of matter, spirit, and the controller of both. That's real knowledge. Asammoha, freedom from doubt and delusion, can be achieved when one is not hesitant and when he understands the transcendental philosophy. Slowly but surely he becomes free from bewilderment. Nothing should be accepted blindly. Everything should be accepted with care and with caution. Kshama, tolerance and forgiveness, should be practiced. One should be tolerant and excuse the minor offenses of others. Satyam, truthfulness, means that facts should be presented as they are for the benefit of others. Facts should not be misrepresented. According to social conventions, it is said that one can speak the truth only when it is palatable to others, but that is not truthfulness. The truth should be spoken in a straightforward way so that others will understand actually what the facts are. If a man is a thief, and if people are warned that he is a thief, that is truth. Although sometimes the truth is unpalatable, one should not refrain from speaking it. Truthfulness demands that the facts be presented as they are for the benefit of others. That is the definition of truth. Control of the senses means that the senses should not be used for unnecessary personal enjoyment. There is no prohibition against meeting the proper needs of the senses, but unnecessary sense enjoyment is detrimental for spiritual advancement. Therefore, the senses should be restrained from unnecessary use. Similarly, one should restrain the mind from unnecessary thoughts. That is called shama. One should not spend one's time pondering over earning money. That is a misuse of the thinking power. The mind should be used to understand the prime necessity of human beings, and that should be presented authoritatively. The power of thought should be developed in association with persons who are authorities in the scriptures, saintly persons and spiritual masters, and those whose thinking is highly developed. Sukham, pleasure or happiness, should always be in that which is favorable for the cultivation of the spiritual knowledge of Krishna consciousness. And similarly, that which is painful or which causes distress is that which is unfavorable for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Anything favorable for the development of Krishna consciousness should be accepted, and anything unfavorable should be rejected. Bhava, birth, should be understood to refer to the body. As far as the soul is concerned, there is neither birth nor death. That we have discussed in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Birth and death apply to one's embodiment in the material world. Fear is due to worrying about the future. A person in Krishna consciousness has no fear, because by his activities he is sure to go back to the spiritual sky, back home, back to Godhead. Therefore his future is very bright. Others, however, do not know what their future holds. They have no knowledge of what the next life holds. So they are therefore in constant anxiety. If we want to get free from anxiety, then the best course is to understand Krishna and be situated always in Krishna consciousness. In that way, we will be free from all fear. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.237, it is stated, Bhayam dvitiya banaveshatak syat. Fear is caused by our absorption in the illusory energy. But those who are free from the illusory energy, those who are confident that they are not the material body, that they are spiritual parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who are therefore engaged in the transcendental service of the Supreme Godhead, have nothing to fear. Their future is very bright. This fear is a condition of persons who are not in Krishna consciousness. Abhayam, fearlessness, is possible only for one in Krishna consciousness. I think this is a long purport. Yeah, I think we should probably stop there and discuss it a little bit. So, there's a lot in this purport, and Krishna first is saying that all the qualities, even the bad ones, are sourced by me. One would say, well, why would he create bad qualities, and such as fear and distress, which are mentioned in here? And we have to see, what is the purpose of this material world? Why would Krishna take the trouble to create it? Even though he does so by delegating to somebody else, he's still responsible for creating it. And the main reason for it is to teach us that our efforts to be happy separate from him are futile. That it is self-defeating to ignore the Supreme Absolute Personality of God and try to manipulate this material world for our own happiness. That's Prabhupada quotes this important verse in the 11th canto about the source of fear, which is really what this world is all about. What is that? What is the name of the spiritual world in general? Vaikuntha, the place where there's no anxiety, the place where there's no fear, because you're confident of your eternal existence and your eternal relation to Krishna and your eternal happiness. So why is this place so fearful? Precisely because it's constantly changing, and because we're among those who have forgotten the Lord, and we're competing with others, both animal, vegetable, mineral, and other human beings, for some titillation of the senses or satisfaction of the mind. But it's all constantly changing. We're constantly changing. The body certainly is changing, and the things that could give us pleasure yesterday can't give us pleasure today. The very senses that we were enjoying are sources of pain today, because that's the nature of the material world. So here we are, living entities, spiritual beings who are by nature Satchidananda, means full of bliss, eternal, full of knowledge. But we're living a life and in a situation within a material body that are counteractive to all of those things. Asat, Achit, Nirananda. We're certainly not eternal, and our knowledge is certainly limited. And who can say that he's always in Ananda? That's ridiculous, So that's the nature of the material world, and therefore it's full of great fear, because we're always threatened by destruction or our nice situation being destroyed. So what does the verse say? The whole verse is Bhayam dvitiya binaveshatak syad ishad apetasya. This phrase means turning away from the Isha, from the Lord. We've turned away from the Lord and our relationship with Him, and we are absorbed in the dualities of this world. Dvitiya abhinaveshita. Abhinaveshita means absorbed. And from that absorption comes the fear, and also apetasya viparhiyosmati, reversal of our position. Instead of the natural position as servants of God, we've taken the unnatural positions of supposed or attempted masters of the material world, and we're constantly being defeated. So what's the solution? Viparya asmriti also means we've forgotten. So we need to come in touch with the source of pure knowledge, the Guru or the Shastra that is giving the same knowledge that Krishna is giving, or giving Krishna's direct words like here. So he says, Ishad viparya asmriti, tanmayato, all of this is due to Maya's energy, Mahamaya's energy, who's serving Krishna and bewildering us. But we have free will, and if we have faith, Buddha, the intelligent, abhajetam, worship that same Lord. In other words, we turn back turn back toward Krishna. Just like when the deities open, we want to be facing that direction. We don't look at the back here. You know? Of course, if you look at the back, you see Hare Krishna. But the point is, we want to see the deity. So, abhajetam, how to worship bhakti aikayation with one-pointed, sincere devotional service, and accepting the guru, the preceptor, as a worshipable Lord, because as our medium to the Lord. So there's so much in that wonderful verse by him. And Prabhupada famously said, he was asked, well, you know, what is your main state of consciousness or something like that? He says, fearlessness. You know, here's Prabhupada, he's 79 years old, he's in a dangerous situation. He went through so many, dangerous situations, just coming over on the boat. You know, he almost passed away from 2 heart attacks. Comes to America, New York. I'm telling you, I lived in New York. Just walking down the street, you can be fearful. You know, there's so many dangers. And he was just constantly there with his books, selling books to this place, and he's looking for some interest that he could then feed. You know, and of course he was successful ultimately, but it was a struggle. And then after so much success in New York, he goes to San Francisco, and the thing is flourishing there. There's the Montauk dance, and suddenly, he has this disciples, and now he installed the deities, and things are taking off. He comes back to New York, and he's going full blast. Boom! The end of May 1967. It's only a few months after the founding of the society. He has a heart attack or a stroke. It's serious. He's in the hospital. And he thought he might pass away. He asked everyone in the movement, all of like 50 devotees who had been initiated, and anyone else went to chant constantly throughout the night. And they chanted throughout the night. And there's a wonderful passage in the book by Mukunda Maharaj called "Miracle on Second Avenue," which is about the beginning of the movement and his own experiences in San Francisco and in London. With the Beatles, the whole thing. How in the middle of that night. Of the crisis of health problem, and the devotees who were chanting, and I think it was Malati who explained, and something changed in the middle of the night, and we suddenly were very confident that Prabhupada would pull through. They could feel, they were tuned in spiritually. So he survived. He tried to, recuperate in America, but that wasn't possible. Then he went back to India, and that was like, we may never see Swamiji again. This is really fear amongst those original devotees. A lot of tears. And then he came back, a few months later in December, comes back to San Francisco's jubilation, and then goes to New York. And the movement grew from there. So Prabhupada was fearless. He was fearless. And there's other instances where he was directly challenged. Fly or die, said the Naxalites, the communist terrorists in Calcutta, when the first Calcutta Padayatra, the Pandal was going on. Prabhupada didn't fly and he didn't die. He invited them into the tent and gave them nice seats and some prasadam, And then he was chanting the Brahma Samhita. And then he had a little conference with them. He said, we practice spiritual communism. And he explained how this is also, I studied Marxism when I was a kid. My father was, raising me to be a Marxist. It's a whole thing. But I remember very little of it, thank God. But there's a few mottos, what is common from each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs. This is how they do it. Of course, it doesn't work like that, because the ones who are getting all the money, they're not pure devotees. If they were, they wouldn't mind giving everyone what they need. But so the Prabhupada said, this is our motto. You work in Varnashram, you come in the temple, you get what you need, and you give your service as your abilities, and you happily chant Hare Krishna, and you're satisfied. That part is essential. If you're not doing bhakti, you'll never be happy that way. He said that person got more than he needed, or he's exaggerating his needs. I need more, and then you got strikes, and you have everything that you see here. So Prabhupada was fearless in prosecuting devotional service and in facing the end there. He was practically, it was unbelievable. I was in L.A. in 1977. We hear about Prabhupada's situation. Everyone's so concerned, And then in September of 1977, he passed in November, he decided to travel again. To leave India, he's there in Vrindavan. He went to London And everyone was just couldn't believe that he did that. He went to London. He couldn't speak. He was sitting on the Vyasasan, and just the devotees were worshiping. And he had dark glasses. His eyes were bothering him. It was an advanced state of, I think, kidney failure, whatever. But he took the trouble to come for one last darshan for the devotees. It was incredible.
His first time in London?
No. It was the last time in London. Yeah, he'd been in London many times before. But I'm saying that he manifested that fearless attitude, because he always felt he's in the hands of God, he's in the hands of Krishna. And the departure of the glory with the kirtan going on in Vrindavan, a few months later is just epic. So anyway, I think we'll read this first. We'll begin with this first on Monday because it's so rich and the purport is so long we didn't finish it.
Next year, basically.
Next year. Well, yeah, that'll be next year. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.